Hi, my name's Anushka Houseman, and I'm going to be speaking today about emotion coaching. Emotion coaching really helps young children, particularly, to get a handle on what they're experiencing in terms of emotions. Often they're quite overwhelmed by the emotion they're experiencing, and that can result in them having or displaying problematic behaviour. So, what we know is that children actually need feedback about their feelings and be able to articulate that. Um, and that actually helps them learn self control. So, we want kids to develop a feeling language. So, something more than just being able to describe feelings as angry or sad or mad or happy. We want them to actually develop a broader range of emotional words um, to actually really be able to articulate exactly what it is that they're feeling. So, for example, the difference between disappointment and annoyed or betrayed or humiliated or embarrassed. They're all slightly different words that convey a slightly different meaning. And when we can have a broader range of words that are more descriptive, we actually are able to articulate what we're experiencing in a more satisfying way. So, so the first step is actually broadening children's horizons in terms of the types of words to describe emotions that they're exposed to. And then when kids actually feel a sympathetic or empathetic adult um, who's really responsive to that emotion that they're experiencing, they actually feel pretty good about themselves, and it really settles them down because it helps them feel that their emotion has a sense of resonance and reflection. So, and that's what Daniel Siegel was talking about in his book, The Developing Mind. So we know that when kids experience that attunement from an adult around their emotions, and that they have that emotional vocabulary to draw on, it really helps kids learn emotional regulation more effectively. So, the way we actually do emotion coaching, we really need to time it well. It has to be when we're noticing the early stages of emotion, not when it's a crisis level or things are really out of control. Because what we know at that point is that there's not a whole lot of thinking going on, it's just reacting. And at that point, it's really about just managing the incident and the behaviour so that everyone is safe. But if it's the early stages of agitation or that things are not quite right, that's a really good time to do emotion coaching. And really all it is about stepping into the shoes of the child and really trying to understand from their perspective, not our perspective, but from their perspective, what they're actually experiencing. So when we do that, we're not actually talking about the behavior at all, or it's that's not the focus. The focus is completely about what is the emotion that's being experienced in this moment. And then once you do that, you use about 3 or 4 statements to really try and show that you understand what they're feeling. Like, it looks to me that you're feeling pretty upset about that, or I can see that you're really frustrated about that, or I can understand why you'd be feeling so disappointed right now. So you might actually also reflect with them the things that they're saying to check that you're understanding what you actually think you've heard from them. So, for example, okay, so from what you're saying, I'm guessing that you were feeling really annoyed because you were blamed for something that you didn't feel was fair. Would that be right? So that's how you're checking your understanding. You're just reflecting what they've told you or paraphrasing to check that you've got it right. So you're really about validating their emotions, not their behavior. So it's okay to feel angry or frustrated or annoyed or irritated. All those emotions are actually fine. We never want to give the impression that the emotion is actually not okay. It's what we do with the emotion that makes it okay or not. So But at this point, remember, we're just focusing on the emotion. And obviously, if the behavior is really high level, then it's too far gone at that point to be doing emotion coaching. And remember, we're just concerned about safety at that point. But we validate their emotions if it's sort of a lower level, and we're just focusing on talking about that. You can use some STEM statements to help you to know how to use these statements to show that you understand how they're feeling. So these are some examples. I'm guessing you're feeling, and then you put the emotion that you're considering at that point in, or it's horrible when you feel whatever the emotion is. It seems like you're, or if somebody said or did that to me, I'd be feeling pretty as well. So, although we instinctually actually worry that we're going to make the situation worse by, connecting with that emotion in that way or agreeing with the emotion, we're actually doing the opposite because often as adults, we're quite dismissive of emotions. So, if someone was getting teased, we might sort of say, oh, don't worry, names can't hurt you, just ignore them. Now, that doesn't really tend to sit well with a child because they actually kind of get frustrated that you don't get it. This really hurts my feelings. And so they actually don't really listen to what you're saying. Whereas when you actually say, oh, I can understand why you're pretty hurt by that, it actually shows kids that you understand, you get it. And it actually calms them down because they're experiencing that attunement with an adult who's quite responsive. So we're not saying anything about the behaviour, we're just focusing on the emotion. So when you actually do that and you give them about, a few statements to show that you get it and you're understanding, and it's not just delivered bang, 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 it's while you're talking to them, you're sort of delivering, a few of those statements to show that you are understanding and you are sympathetic to what they're experiencing, that you actually start to see them visibly calm down. And then once they've actually calmed down, then you can deal with the problem behaviour. So, for example, you could say, yeah, I get why you're feeling really upset. And, we've talked that through. And I think, we've got to work out how to actually deal with this now because, obviously you laid hands on, so that's going to be a consequence there. And that's just the way it is. But I want to work out with you what you can do differently next time so that you're not put in this position again if someone says something mean to you. So that we actually have a clear plan so that you're not the one in trouble and all the attention can be focused on the person who's doing the wrong thing. And usually when you approach it in that way, kids can already see, because you've made a few statements to show that you get the emotion, they're not trying to work so hard to convince you how unfair something was or how terrible it was. But they actually know that you get it, you understand, but then you want to help them. So they're much more likely to accept consequences because they're calmer and they also understand often that they have done the wrong thing as well, but you understand that the other person actually also did something inappropriate, and you're trying to learn to manage that with, deal with that with them. So it's really important that they calm down first before you actually engage in problem solving, because the way the brain is designed, we actually, when our emotions are really heightened, we actually have a great difficulty in engaging our higher order thinking and those reasoning and logical sort of processes, because our whole brain is focused on that emotion center and really prioritizing that. So until that's calmed down, all of our more rational thinking and reasoning is not going to be engaged. So problem solving really relies on logical thinking and rational thinking. And so that's why we have to calm down the emotion center of the brain first before we can move on to that. So that's basically the summary of emotion coaching. Thanks for listening.